Well, one thing to take note when you're shooting with a introductory level camera with a kit lens, you're not going to get the same exposures with a full frame camera with a really fast lens. So in this case, I was shooting my T2i at much lower ISO, 3200 ISO, and a 24mm lens, and only f4, get away with a very long exposure. So, and with f4, you're really kind of limited in that sense for light gathering capabilities. And this is essentially what you get when you come out straight out of camera. And this is, let's go quickly switch over and let it load. Or this is what I ended up with. So this was the start when I started from, and this is what I ended up with. And this is just a basic Lightroom processing, and Photoshop will be the same processing, but I'll show you through how I did it. First and foremost, exposure. I brought up quite a bit. So about a little over 1.5 full stops. So since you brighten up this whole area here, the sky and the light pollution, you brought that up to, I'm just going to bring down highlights a ways. Good long ways, and now it looks kind of flat. The Milky Way is pretty dark, so I'm going to bring up whites to brighten up all the stars here. So quickly bring that up. Well, you don't want to go all the way, obviously, but about just enough about there. Now, it kind of looks flat still, so I'm going to add some contrast, give it a little bit of pop, and maybe bring up whites a little more. Seeing a lot of noise here, so I'm going to go pretty heavy on this. Quite heavy, heavier than I do with my 5D. I'm going to go like 35. There we go. I did pretty good right there. But then this whole scene gets pretty soft, so I'm going to work on bringing back some detail, and I'm probably going to go a good 70 again. Alright, I brought back a lot of detail, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm not liking this down here. Actually, I already have a gradient here. Gradient. I already got a gradient, but I'll show you real quick what happens when you don't. See all that purple? That's color noise. So actually, I already had a gradient going. So what I did was just reduce exposure, add contrast, and reduce saturation, and I'll probably add a little bit of a noise reduction in here. But ultimately, I'm just taking something that has little or no information, brightening it up significantly to the point where it's just noise, and then redarkening it again and adding contrast to make it more of a silhouette. Another big step I'm doing here, and for the Milky Way, really for the Milky Way, I'm going to come down to tone curve. Now, I will bring up highlights a little bit. Remember the other ones? So yeah, this is the same as with my other camera. So then I'm going to come down here, point curve. I'm going to click on this, or it says click to edit point curve. So I'm going to close that. So now it just shows the curve here, and it's just like a regular Photoshop curve. Now what I'm going to do is bring point on the bright area, highlight areas, and bring it way up. Way up. And then come down here in the darks and shadows area and bring it down slowly, and it takes a minute to process, and all of a sudden, there it is, the Milky Way, really starting to come out. And it's actually matching here pretty darn good. And this is the final result, so what I'm going to show you next is, real quick, I ended up actually having too warm of a white balance, 4200, that's definitely, as you can tell, it's definitely way too warm. So I'm just going to manually bring it down to about 3750. Let's see here. Remember, correct white balance, vibrancy, saturation up 100%. Good balance between blue and yellow. And tint is a proper balance between green and purple, or magenta, I should say. So let's work on tint a little bit. And there's not much magenta that's going to show up in here anyways. But I think right there at 0, that will be a neutral, true neutral white balance. But again, like I said before, I like a little bit of magenta. I like a little bit. So I'm just going to add it. Not much. Obviously, no, not that much. More like, just like +4, +5. Let's try, I like +7. So that's pretty much it. One other thing I forgot. And this will show you chromatic aberration. You see this red right here. Let me zoom in 3 times. Right here. See that red right there? And then this purple in here. Come on. There's a purple here and a blue here. That's chromatic aberration. Actually, let's bring it to 100% now. Let it load. So now you can really see it here. purple here, green here, purple here, purple, all this little fringing here, so I will come down. Let's see here, lens correction. I'm just going to minimize or view 100%, add, remove chromatic aberration, add that, and see how well it works. Sometimes it works real good, other times it's eh. And let's see, take it off. And it's one of those moments. So I'm going to come over to color, click range color selector, and I'll just come up here and the little eye drop will turn purple. So I click on that and it should help reduce a little bit of that. And that should help. Let's see, let's just go back a little bit. Oh yeah, look at the difference. If you can see on your screen, boom, all that went bye-bye. So that's actually a doable image. Next up, I'm going to try and see enable profile correction since I worked with a 24 to 105, the f4L lens. Let's see what happens. See, did you see that change in barrel distortion? That's a correction in barrel distortion. So we'll click on that and it removes that barrel distortion and kind of helps eliminate that lens vignetting. So that's pretty much it for Lightroom. Everything else will be going on Photoshop will be the same as I've shown before. There'll be even more heavier noise reduction in the shadows. I'll go even more intense, heavier, since there is going to be a far greater amount of noise. Even though ISO is half of what it is in my 5D, but there's still significant amounts of information. Significant amounts of information that you can bring out, even in introductory level cameras in a kit lens. That's your start. That's what you started with. That's how dark it was. Very little in there. And this is the end. Just a quick processing, only a few minutes. That's what you can do. So that's why you don't need a full frame camera and whatever high-end equipment to shoot the Milky Way. But the other things I would do too, if you notice in the upper right, that's a cloud. Totally unavoidable. Totally unavoidable. It's a cloud though. I would get rid of that in Photoshop. I would do that in Photoshop. Let's see here. What else do we got? Here's another Milky Way shot with my T2i 24mm lens at f4. I'm going to let it load. There. See? Could probably add another, turn this into more of a silhouette, but here is what it looked like. Start. See? Very dark, but there's still plenty of information in there. Secret to that is shooting raw. You cannot recover this much information shooting in JPEG. Don't even consider it. If you're going to shoot JPEG, don't even consider shooting JPEG. You got to shoot raw. I'm going to actually do a little more. Brighten it up more. All right, now close that. Bring up your curves on the highlight end and bring down shadows. Oh, excellent. Look at that. And let's see here. Do I have a gradient? No, I do not. It's actually the gradient filter. So clarity, I'm going to eliminate. I'm going to change this. Reset. Just double click on effect and resets everything. So I'm going to just add some contrast in there and then maybe bring some blacks in and a little bit of clarity maybe. Nah, I don't want it. There, now you got just almost a straight silhouette. And there you go. Nice little Milky Way right there, taken with a introductory level camera, essentially a kit lens. This is what you can do. Pretty easy, really. Alright, that's it. Next up, light painting.